When they arrived at the river, they found the washerwomen setting up for another round of clothes. Kellen was in the midst of it all, helping with a giant stream of water flowing from the river. With eyes aglow, she and 3 others filled up 3 giant cauldrons. Wood was already piled up underneath the large cauldrons, ready to burn so that they could boil the water within. As they approached, Jonathan thought of the amulet hanging from his neck. Unsure of whether or not it was still active, he tapped it twice again. Durin stopped short, not wishing to disturb their concentration. When the last cauldron was filled, Killen finally took note of the new arrivals. "Oh, hello, Tiophianiar. Hello, Tiophianiar." She had a pleasant, motherly voice. Looking over the two, she noticed Jonathan's new piece of equipment. "I see you have been to Tiophianiar for one of his specialty items." "We happened to run into him while dining at the Salted Slug," Durin said. "He decided to save us a trip." "How is Giratek and his family doing?" "They all seem to be doing well, though Filania stayed in the back, so I did not get to see her." Kellen waved her hand in dismissal. "If she had been unwell, Giratek would have said so. I know you didn't come here to listen to me talk. My assumption is that your apprentice here is ready to work with us." Durin nodded in affirmation, and Kellen clapped her hands excitedly. "Excellent! Always happy to have another pair of hands around. Come on, I'll show you the ropes, as you Earthlanders say." For the next 3 hours he helped clean clothes. He was moved from task to task to learn all aspects of the job. At times he would help stir the clothes inside the giant cauldrons, then use a large pole to drag them out. The washerwomen used a soap of some sort in the boiling process. So next he used magic to manipulate a ball of water to rinse the suds out. Lastly, the clothes would be moved over to a drying line where air would be manipulated to help them dry faster. Occasionally he would help refill the cauldrons when the water got too low or got too dirty. By the end, his arms ached and his appendix burned from the labor. He shook his head when Kellen congratulated him on a job well done. "I don't see how y'all do that on the daily. I'm beat." She looked at him, a bit confused by the phrasing, yet understanding. With a laugh, she said, "We have done this for a long time. No longer do we feel the aches and pains that a newcomer would experience. You have truly done well." Reaching into a purse attached to a belt around her waist, she produced 4 coins, 2 silver and 2 copper. "I know this is a bit unusual to an Earthlander, but here's your payment. They are worth far more than the coins you would be accustomed to." Jonathan was confused for a completely different reason, however. "I didn't realize I was being paid for this." "Of course you are. You did the work, so you get the pay just like the others." "Oh, thank you." "Now, I am sure you will want to get some rest for tomorrow. Durin and I will be putting your youthful vigor to good use tomorrow." Jonathan blanched at the thought. He knew that he would be sore in the morning, and that he would have little respite from it. Sure enough, he woke up the next morning, and his arms and stomach were aching from the previous day's exertions. Waking up at 8, he had a quick breakfast at the inn, then reported straight to Durin. They continued their practice routines, having him throw elements at targets until his gut ached, just to have him wield his practice sword and shield until his arms ached. This grueling back and forth would continue for 3 hours, then they would break for lunch. They had lunch at Durin's house this time, fixing Jonathan a simple meal from the pantry. Looking around, a thought occurred to the apprentice. "What does an eye do during the day?" "She is a potion brewer," Durin explained. "She makes potions for the shop in town, on occasion making more personalized orders for those with a specific need. When all her orders are filled, she experiments with ingredients to see what new effects she can produce. Right now, she is down in the basement finishing her orders." Jonathan nodded as he ate, thinking this over as Durin continued. "Next week, she will be teaching you the basics. Ginyar has agreed to tutor you in the ways of enchanting as well. All of those things will be handy in your day-to-day life here." After lunch, the apprentice made his way to the river and began his work with Kellen again. He was amazed at how much laundry a town could generate on a daily basis. They worked for the next 4 hours with little time for rest. When the labor was done, he was paid his wages and sent on his way. This time, he was sent home with more of the Tiophianian guards as well. When he arrived at the inn, he went straight to his room to shower and change. Then he went down and had a meal in the cafeteria. Afterwards, he went back to his room and fell on his bed, exhausted. Without meaning to, he fell asleep. He woke up 2 hours before his alarm, even more worn out than the day before. He went through these same motions for the next few days. The routine went as follows: eat breakfast, train with Duran for 3 hours, eat lunch, work for Kellen for 4 hours, shower, eat, supper, then go to bed. Thankfully for him, he noticed the ache was beginning to slowly abate. When Saturday came, Jonathan awoke to a pleasant surprise. As he was dressing for the next day, he heard a knock on his door. Frowning in confusion, he quickly threw his clothes on and answered the door. Duran was waiting outside the door for him. "Morning, Trovir. What brings you by the inn?" "Good morning, Jonathan. A sec and I thought you might like to have some visitors." He stepped out of the way for the new arrivals. Smiling, Jonathan ran forward, throwing his arms around them. "Uncle Magnus! Gauta!" They returned the embrace warmly. "It's good to see you." His uncle stepped back and looked at him. "Been behaving yourself?" Jonathan feigned an annoyed sigh. "Yes, uncle. I would ask the same of you two, but I already know the answer I'd get." They grinned in reply. Overjoyed to see Jonathan, Gauta stepped forward and hugged him again. "I've missed having you around. Not as fun without you at home." They heard a sniffle from behind and turned to see a sec wiping away a tear. "You two remind me of my older brother and myself." He was choked up with emotions. "You have a brother?" Jonathan asked. "I have several siblings, though my older brother and I had a stronger bond. We haven't talked in years." Seeing his discomfort, Duran stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. "We will leave you to talk in private with your family. Come by later and you can demonstrate your magic capabilities. You should come along as well, Azek. I plan to take everyone to the Salted Slug for supper tonight. Let us say around 4 for the demonstration and 5 for supper." They all agreed with the timing, and Azek seemed to cheer up at the offer. Jonathan was tempted to ask him more about his brother, but thought better of it. If he wanted to talk about it, he should let the shapeshifter start the conversation. When the pair left, Jonathan sat down and talked with his uncle and cousin. He didn't realize how much he had missed them. His uncle was a strong and reassuring presence, while his cousin was adventurous and always ready to pull his leg in a brotherly fashion. They sat and talked for a long time. It was mostly questions of how things were going back home and how he was liking things in Tiophianiar. When the time came, they eventually headed out to the clearing in the woods that was the Tiofir's personal training ground. Upon their arrival, they found Duran and Azek chatting in the middle of the cleared earth. The two looked up as the group approached them. "Welcome," Duran said in greeting. "We were discussing what kind of demonstration we should display for our guest." He nodded his head at Magnus and Gauta as he said this. "What we thought up is this. First, you will warm up a little to get into the motion of things. Then, you will face off against a sec in a friendly duel. What do you say?"